When I decide to taper off of my GLP-1, I would encourage them still work with a dietitian. Before Nutrition Built Strength, there was a lot of being kind of uneducated of how to estimate my macros. Before, I'd probably be like, I need to try 3 cookies. And
What's going on, Nutrition Built Strength? Happy Monday. We are going to have a community conversation with our member, Corrie, today. Corrie, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us about how you found Nutrition Built Strength. Your story is actually really interesting because you used to use our free macro calculator all the time, and then you hopped on board. So tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, nice to talk with you. I'm in Montana. It's snowy and a blizzard today, so that's been fun. I'm a mom of 2. Me and my husband have been together for about 15 years now. And I found Nutrition Built Strength. I noticed Afton in a lot of our Facebook Peloton groups. I was postpartum. I was struggling. She reached out very just naturally and organically of checking in. How are you? How can I help? And she helped me with some macro calculations. A year went by. I was ready to make a better change. And just, again, Afton reached out and was like, how can I help? And very naturally offered to give me the run through of Nutrition Built Strength. And it was definitely something that made sense for me.
Well, very cool. Well, it's funny because you're like, she organically reached out. You mean she didn't try to go sell you and try to get you on a membership right away and hunt you down and just chomp at the bit? No, definitely not.
That's what was really like, when she wasn't like that, I immediately gravitated to it because I hate like car dealership type people. And so she was just like, hey, like, this is what I do. And she was so natural about it. So I appreciated that for sure.
I'm just going to go on and say it, Corrie, you called a spade a spade. What the industry has turned into is a bunch of people who really don't have the credentials to be helping people, sounding like used car salesmen, just trying to get people to buy their $99.99 quick fix that they're coming up with and that they actually don't have any clout behind or any reputation or credentials to actually prove it. So that was awesome. Yeah, you're a mom of 2. What was like before you joined? What were you struggling with most, and what made you decide, other than like Afton, just being Afton, just being a caring person, what made you decide to finally like take the plunge?
Before I had my son, I was doing intermittent fasting to a very intense level. I lost a lot of weight, but you could really tell that there was a lot going on in my body that wasn't favorable. Lots of like hair loss type of stuff, thyroid fluctuation issues, and it worked. I lost a lot of weight, but it was also a different time in my life. So I had my son. I gained 60 plus pounds with that pregnancy.
Oh boy.
Yeah. It was a lot. And then a few years later, I had my daughter. I had lost some of the weight, but again, I gained about 65 pounds with her as well. So I just felt like, whether it was the dynamics of my life or my body or getting older, I really struggled to ever see the scale go down after I was postpartum.
Postpartum is hard as it is. But you also, before Nutrition Built Strength, Afton actually just sent me a message. You have a little side gig of baking treats. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how was that? Did that happen post Nutrition Build Strength or pre Nutrition Build Strength? And you're a baker. There's no way that you don't taste at least a little bit of what you're doing. What is that like for you?
Oh yeah, that is it's fairly new of a venture. I mean, I've been selling sugar cookies for about a year and a half.
I love sugar cookies.
Yeah, they're just, I'm a soft cookie person, and I just like, that's my mantra. Everyone laughs. They're like, how do you find time to do this? I swear there was like 1 week of peace in my house and the kids were perfect. And I was like, I'll pick up a hobby. And then things just got crazy from there.
That's gotta be a lot. But when you're baking, now that you've been working with Afton, how does that get integrated into your program and all that?
Yeah, it's definitely made me think of it a little bit differently. I definitely do try to taste test, very minimal. I think I do taste test, but just, a bite here. That's all I need. Where before I'd probably be like, I need to try 3 cookies. And adjust that. But the way that I guess with Nutrition Built Strength is what I like the calorie days. So that also kind of helps me balance out if I am working on a bunch of cookies on the weekend, I'm fitting it into my Saturday day, or I just have confidence that I'm not going to have a cookie today. Maybe I'll have it later. So, and if it happens, Afton's like, it's fine. Let's start, we'll figure it out tomorrow. If
Yep.
I went off the rails, she's super cool about it.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of our thing here. We don't ever slap you on the wrist. We don't ever slap you on the wrist. It's not about punishing you. I actually just wrote something. It said, if you're already preparing yourself to punish yourself on Monday for the way you're going to behave over the weekend, then your approach isn't working for you, because you shouldn't be preparing to punish yourself for your behavior that is going to happen on the weekend. We need to figure out how to make those weekends work for you. So I love that. What have you tried other than intermittent fasting? Was there anything else that you would really tried in terms for your weight loss?
Probably a mix of calorie counting and macro counting. What I was really struggling with before Nutrition Built Strength is Sunday would come around, I'd feel like crap. I would go on and I'd try to calculate my macros. And every time I would calculate them, I'd get such different answers. And I'd give it a try. I probably wasn't giving it enough time to work, but it really left me leading with every week I was going through this cycle of how do I calculate my macros? How do I do this? Let's try it. And I just felt very lost. And I love that Afton she's like, this is where you need to be. It's just nice that I don't even have to think of it. So I think it was just before Nutrition Built Strength, it was a lot of misguided or me just being kind of uneducated of how to estimate my macros.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that we hear a lot, especially as a mom, as you work, you have a hobby, you're a wife, you do all the things. One of the things that we hear all the time is it's one less thing I have to think about. And the way we design the program,
Yep.
it's funny because we make you track everything. Absolutely. Because we need the data to make scientific decisions to decide what to do next. But we also understand when we built the program, tracking is obnoxious. It's time consuming. It's annoying for lack of a better word. But the way we build the program, where you have your structured breakfast, lunch, and snacks, your macro track dinner, your cal track weekends, how do you feel about tracking compared to how you would track before?
With the calorie days, it was a huge game changer. Otherwise, your weeks just really blend in, and just going about that mindset of like, okay, I'm gonna plan my macros for the next 4 or 5 days to get me to the weekend, and then I can start thinking about the flexibility that I have in there. So that was really, when she told me that, I think that was probably like the one thing that I was like, that makes so much sense, and I think that's genius. I need those flexible days. So now I'm kind of like on autopilot. I know what I like. I'm very I'm fine eating eggs every day type of person. Yeah. So I have my go-tos, and that's just finding out kind of those quick staples in my life had really helped as well.
Good. I love what you said. You're like, it just makes sense. And one of the things when I was building the program, it wasn't that I was looking for new science. It was looking at behavior and bottlenecks of people like yourself who have an understanding, a very basic understanding that should be enough for you to be successful with weight loss in terms of calories and macros, but you're not. So we're not going to look for new science because it's not going to be there. I would have a Nobel Peace Prize. I'd be much wealthier. Or I'd be wealthy, period. And things would be different. But it was, let's just look at behavior. Let's look at things. And you said it perfect. You're like, well, this just makes sense. Yeah, you've got 2 little kids. Who has time to be doing all of the things that you used to do when it came to tracking food, like all that when you have 2 little ones? And speaking of your little ones, tell me about what it's like. What is dinner like in your house Monday through Friday with our macro track dinner?
Dinners have kind of become a catch-all. So I have my planned dinners. There is one thing specifically, like I know if I make a tater tot casserole and use plain Greek yogurt and some of those subs out, like that fits in my macros really well. And the entire family really loves it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's kind of our one thing that I don't know. I love to show off, I guess, is like tater tot casserole. I got it.
I've never even heard of that. That sounds ridiculous. I was like, tater tot casserole, tell me more.
Yeah, it's like meat, corn, tater tots. I don't know. It's kind of like a casserole, but probably like more of a Western casserole, but
I love
um,
that.
yeah. Otherwise, our kids are in that stage of being a little picky with their meals. So I used to fight that. Like I used to think every meal needs to be this family style dinner. But now I'm realizing, okay, this is how we're going to make everyone happy. I can plan my meals. I offer it to my family. If they don't want it, then they just kind of do their own thing. And we're all a little creative right now.
That's I love. You're like, I'm gonna make what I make, and then y'all fend for yourselves.
Yeah.
It's not mom making 12 different meals and then being miserable on the side with her food. You're like, I'm making what's gonna be good for me. Y'all can enjoy with me, or you can figure it out. Which brings me to when you started. Weren't you nursing at the time when you started? Was that before Nutrition Build Strength?
The first time I connected with Afton, I was nursing, and that was that was when she was just like I first introduced her, and she was like, "Hey, try these macros out." But she was just so kind about it, and she's been through that, so she really resonated with that. And then when I started Nutrition Built Strength, I think I was on the tail end of nursing, yeah, and went through that transition.
And from going from nursing, which is it's not very different in terms of how we tackle weight loss with you, but our first goal is to keep supply high or keep supply consistent depending on where you're at nursing. If you're weaning, that's different. But from working with Afton slightly through your nursing phase or probably through your weaning phase till now, do you feel like there's a difference? What was that like for you?
When I started, I remember thinking like, okay, I do get to eat a lot of food. Like it was awesome. I was like, okay, I this is where I should be, and it felt really good. And it didn't really I guess I didn't really notice too much of it because it just all kind of flew together. She would, we'd taper down. I'd keep her updated on how I was doing in my weaning process, and then we would just slowly taper down. It wasn't like a huge monumental day like D-Day where it was like, okay, that's it. Now you're got to eat nothing. So it was very unnoticeable in the best way because it was just very gradual.
That's great. That's great. And I'm going to kind of slowly start to get to the tail end of this, but I want to bring up something if you're comfortable with it. Can we talk about GLP-1s?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. I thank you so much. So I'm going to read a quote that you sent to Afton. You said, "I can't believe how much food noise has gone with the GLP-1. It's so nice. You've taught me how to provide nutrition to my body, so I love that. I'm still hitting protein and fiber goals. I am just no longer fighting against my cravings 24/7. Now, you just recently started which one?
Trizepatide, however you say it.
Tirzepatide. And how long you been on it?
2 weeks.
Okay. Very you're noticing the effects right away. Fantastic. But you've been putting in the work much longer than obviously you've been on the GLPs. Do you think the way you're going about your nutrition now implementing a GLP-1, do you think that you would still go about it with the same mindset in terms of the knowledge you have of I'm not trying to starve myself. I want to be fed. I want to eat food. I just need to shut down the noise. And I know the GLP-1 is going to make it difficult, but I still need to find ways to do this. Do you think you would still have that mindset if you didn't go through all the behavior change that you very successfully established working with nutritional strength prior to starting the tirzepatide?
I'm glad the way that my journey came together. I'm glad that I was working with Afton before. I learned so much. I think I'm going to be more successful than someone who's not working with a dietitian on the nutrition pieces of it. What I can say is from what I've read and talked to other peers on GLP-1s is I'm having significantly less side effects because I am focusing on the protein and the fiber.
Yep.
And I'm very confident that when I decide to taper off of my GLP-1, all of the skill sets that Afton has taught me is going to really help me maintain that weight. I would, if anyone were to ask me, I would encourage them still work with a dietitian. Get that figured out, and it's gonna help you tremendously when you add that to your journey.
So it's funny you said you already said something that most people that's not even a thought in their mind. That's actually like a terrifying thing. You said, once I start to taper off, because you already know, you're like, I have the behavior. I know what to do. I know that the missing piece of the puzzle is the fight against the cravings. Totally reasonable. But
Mhm.
you also know you're like, I know that I don't want to be on this forever. So I know that I need to ramp up, stick with it, and then taper off, which is substantially different than the conversation around GLP-1s that most people have, which
Mhm.
is my only issue with it. I am not against GLP-1s at all. I think if you're using it as a tool the way you did, you establish behavior first and you're like, cool, I know what to do now. But I'm still not being as successful as I know I can be. And I know it's not, I have Afton, nutritional strength, I have all the tools. But there's this thing that I can't overcome. And you're right, we can't shut down your food noise. We can't do that. So you implement it then. And you're like, as I just need it for a little bit so that I can have the success that I know I can with the habits and behaviors that I've established, which is absolutely fantastic. I love that. Corrie, I'm gonna hit you with a couple last questions.
Okay.
People are always a little scared to talk to us. They're a little scared about dipping their toe into nutritional strength, starting to they think tracking their food is going to we're going to just change their world. We're going to flip everything upside down, change who they are as a person. Obviously, that's not what we do. For the person that's scared that working with us, it's going to change everything for them. It's going to be bland. It's going to be boring. It's going to be just another thing that they spend money on, and it collects dust when they don't use it the right way. What would you tell them about working with us?
Mhm. It's such a good question. And I think the biggest thing that I would want them to know or to feel confident in is the journey is not going to be straightforward. It's not going to be black and white. Um, if you give it your all, and you're going to have days that you mess up, and Afton's going to be like, it's fine. We'll work through it. Um, no one's going to look at you differently if you have a bad day. I think that's the biggest thing, is just knowing no one's there to reprimand you or make you feel bad. They're going to support you through the worst days more than the best days.
Absolutely. I love that. That's my favorite thing. I just keep hearing you say, we're not going to punish you. We're not going
Mhm.
to punish you around food. We're not going to make you feel poorly about your choices. We're not going to tell you, for lack of a better word, that you fucked up again. No, we're going to be like, okay, cool. We might look at it and be like, so we see this pattern. This is consistently happening. Let's figure out how to make this either work for you, or let's figure out why this continues to happen. And you feel like you have a support system, and sounds like you've learned a lot since your time with us.
Oh, absolutely. I've learned so much about nutrition, about my body, and just putting myself out of my comfort zone and saying, Afton, I need help. I know asking for help can be hard, but that's what she's there for.
Absolutely. Putting your hand up and saying, I need help is one of the hardest things. I'm going to ask you one last question, then I'll let you go.
Okay.
We are obviously, and we openly admit, we're never going to win anybody's decision on price. We are probably one of the most, if not the most expensive program, at least within our little network of people. And I tell people all the time, if you're looking at the price and that's the reason for not starting, you're looking at the wrong thing. When it comes to price, we're never going to win on that. It's a big sticker. What would you tell them about what that's like, or why you decided to make the investment in you?
When I was thinking about all of the things I was going to spend money on, more gym memberships, specifically more clothes to fit. When you start breaking it down like that, that really helped me think of it as, okay, I'm going to spend this money no matter what. I'm going to spend it somewhere around my life. And I really wanted to take this moment to not pause my life, but really start investing in myself. So that's how I really had to think of it, as I'm going to spend this money no matter what. I'd rather it go towards bettering my body and bettering myself and being a stronger person, rather than, spending it on more clothes that don't fit, that I don't love.
Corrie, you said the things that can't leave my mouth. You're like, I'm going to spend it on more clothes that I really don't want to be buying. This is not, I don't want to buy these aren't clothes that I'm like, I'm super pumped to buy this. You're like, I'm buying this because nothing fits and I'm buying more clothes again. Corrie, that was amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. I know Jennifer is really sad and bummed when she realizes that I got to talk to you all alone. So I appreciate it so much. Everybody, Nutrition Builds Strength, thank you so much for joining our conversation on Monday. I'm not really bad with the calendar. I think there might be a workshop next week. It might be the week after. I'm not sure. Jennifer will post about it. If you guys have any questions, remember, you can always reach out. Myself, Jennifer, anybody on the team, Afton, Luciana, Lanice, Dawn, we're all here. You heard from Corrie. She's the proof in the pudding of why it works and why it's sustainable. So Nutrition Builds Strength, thank you so much.